So welcome to another video and podcast in our series of Jim's Advice with really successful entrepreneurs and business owners within the Jim's family and network. And the goal of these is always to try and provide with as much generic business content as possible. There'll also be stuff relating to gyms. However, general business advice for any business owner or entrepreneur wanting to start taking the step in business or try and improve their business. So with me today is Blair. He's done the 4 a.m. flight. He's down, so we've given a few coffees and hopefully he's woken up a bit.
Got the coffee, Joel.
Got the coffee, there we go. So Brett's up from Queensland. He's the owner of the Jim's Pool Care division, which has now more than 100 franchisees. I think I checked last night, under the Pool Care banner. I really wanted Brett on because he's a really relatable guy. So a lot of people will be able to relate to Brett. He's a knockabout type of bloke. He's got a great bit of banter, and he'll probably tell you a bit more stories with that in Jim. But he's also got a lot of great business advice and applicable business advice. And he's come into our business from a completely unrelated industry. So we'll talk more about that. So thanks, Brett, for agreeing to do this. And
that's right, Joel. Thanks for flying me down.
No. So the first question I'll start with everyone is, what is Jim like?
That's a tough one straight up, mate. I guess my first interaction with Jim was when I was getting into business about 15 years ago. So my background was IT and project management.
Yep.
Looked for a business. I'd had enough, hadn't started my family and was looking to get into business. And everything kept pointing back to gyms. Like I knew about project management, I knew about IT. I'd studied business management and marketing, but I thought, if I'm going to get into business for the first time, where's the logical place to go? And I just kept coming back to gyms. So I found Jim's Pool Care. Long story short, I flew down to Melbourne, did some training, met Jim, and I guess that sealed it for me as far as getting into Jim's Pool Care. So that training was part of the due diligence, I guess. And I just have never met a person more passionate about customer service in my life. And I thought, that's something I want to be involved with. I'm not sure if this is right, but this guy seems like the right person to be in business with. So I went back and started a mobile franchise and a master franchise in Queensland. And back then we only had a couple of guys in Queensland and probably about 10 in Australia.
So what made you settle on the pool care service? Because as you said, you come from IT project management and you've gone and chose pool care. So what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, my wife thinks other reasons, and there's different thoughts around it. But I guess for me, the beauty of the pool care division was it was not just labour; it was a labour and retail business. So since I've been a young man, I've read all the business and motivational books, attended seminars. I always knew I was worth more than wages. That in my heart, I just thought I work really hard. All the jobs I've done, I just work so hard at it, but there's no extra on top for me. So I knew I was going to get into business one day, and all the books I said, you've got to be able to sell time and ideally money, otherwise you're swapping time for money. So, and while there's some great gyms businesses that do that, the pool care had the retail component to it. So not only could we show up and charge for our time, we can show up and charge for the chemicals, lucrative pool equipment items, pumps, filters, chlorinators. And if you speak to any of my mates, I'm a work smarter, not harder sort of guy, because I like to work hard, but I also like to enjoy myself and spend time with family and travel. So I thought, if I can grow a business quickly, how would I do it? I'd sell my time and retail items. So I was drawn to the pool care division. That's an interesting
one, because when we've done these series, for anyone listening, everyone sort of goes, I've started as this business and that was my passion, then it's sort of evolved into what they are. But you're saying you actually looked objectively with your management sort of background and what you've read to try and find a service that had those different elements for you to get into, which is a lot different to what other ones have said, which I find very interesting.
Yeah, so I guess anyone, tip getting into business is be really clear. And some of those things you need to be clear on is your passion. What am I passionate about? And it's cliche, in the world of motivators and all that, find your passion and your focus and all that. But I believe it is true. If you haven't sat down and thought, could I do this business for the next 3, 5, 10 years? Could I imagine getting up every morning when it's getting a bit tough and I'm trying to grow it? If I haven't thought that I could be passionate about this, there's a chance you may just give up. So that's why people in their first year or so probably fail. They might fail because, the business is not going as well. But if you weren't passionate about it to start with, there's probably a greater chance of it failing. And that little bit of focus. So if I'm passionate about it and I'm enjoying it, that probably comes across to the customers as well. This guy's really enjoying what he's doing. I like interacting with him. I love it when he comes out every month. So the pool industry our goal is about one-off and regular service. So we coach our guys to build great relationships on that first visit. because we want the monthly ongoing service. And a customer might stay on for anywhere from 12 months to 10 years. So we've got 10-year customers now that have been getting a pool service every month for 10 years. Now, that's pretty lucrative from one visit. That's how it started. So they did something right in that first visit, and whether that be a great job, a smile, built some rapport with the customer, but then I guess the outcome of that was a 10-year customer that's paid them tens of thousands of dollars over the life of that journey. So
yes, you really want to maximise that first-time customer interaction to hopefully lead everyone to be a 10-year customer.
Yeah, definitely. So probably that's another tip. So a tip is make every interaction count. So you might be having a bad day or whatever it might be, and you show up to this last job of the day. If you're not switched on like it was the first job of the day, what are you doing there? That customer doesn't deserve a second-rate you. They deserve the guy who's showing up like it's the first job of the day. How can I help you? What can I do for you? And if you're not in the right frame of mind, you're probably better off just going home and doing the job the next day, because that one interaction might go from $150 pool clean to a annual servicing worth $1,500. They might have also wanted some pool heating worth $5,000, but you showed up a bit grumpy, looking a bit dishevelled, not really interested, and you got a one-off job and never saw the customer again, and you don't realise what money was left on the table.
So how do you continually motivate your guys to get to that sort of level?
I guess in pool care, we're pretty passionate about the ongoing team meetings and professional development. So we engage heavily with the franchisor team around Australia to have regular team meetings. We've got a preferred list of 6 suppliers in the Jim's Pool Care group who provide ongoing professional development and training and equipment. So, the pool equipment manufacturers, etc. We have an annual conference every year. So we fly everyone in and we try and make it really interesting and engaging for a couple of days. 2 things come out of that. One is they get to learn best practice and what's going on in the industry from our suppliers. We normally have a motivational speaker, etc. But the second and more important thing is they catch up with their peers and they get to hear things about what's going on. What's that guy doing so well? How could I imitate what he's doing back in my part of Australia? Would that work in my area? And quite often the best hints and tips are found at the bar later at night when guys are still boring their wives to death about pool talk. But yeah, I guess for me it's always be learning. So always have an open mind to learning, and we love feedback. So if the franchisees aren't giving feedback to the franchisors on a regular basis, there's probably something wrong. And we meet regularly as franchisors. So we use technology at the franchisor level. So 13 franchisors probably every 6 weeks are meeting up via Zoom teleconferencing, bringing back feedback from their groups, and always trying to look for the next best thing that's going on in the marketplace to help the franchisor team and the franchisees.
So when you started in the division, so make it clear for people, you started as a franchisee. You didn't just walk. You didn't go from IT and just own the division. You started as a pool care franchisee.
Yeah. So I started as a mobile franchisee in my own region. I was the first guy on the ground, and I had to walk the walk. I had to work out day one. It was a bit scary. I woke up that morning. I remember putting my brand new Jim's Pool Care uniform on, went downstairs early, made breakfast, and then I realised I was now in business. So I was sitting on the couch watching the Today Show, and my wife said, "Don't you have any work on today?" And I said, "I'm just waiting for the jobs to come in."
Yeah.
And I realised then that, oh my God, I'm in business. I've got to get off this couch and get out there and do something. So I spoke to the national or the division owners back then, and I remember calling them on the first day saying, "Hey, I've been sitting here for 2 or 3 hours and there's no jobs yet." And they said, "What marketing have you done?" And I said, "I haven't done any." And they said, "Well, go back and follow your plan. What is it you said you were going to do in the first week? What were you going to do in the first month?" And I went back and went, "Well, that's right. I was going to go drop some flyers. I was going to go visit some people in my street with pools. I was supposed to call my family and friends. Who else do I know with a pool?" So I just started doing all those 1%ers, and that grew my business. So I grew a business fairly quickly in the first 12 months. The first 12, 18 months, 2 years in any business, if you're starting from scratch, is a challenge. But my goal with all franchisees is how quickly can I get you to your goal? Everyone's goals are different. We ask what your goal is when you come in. But if I can get you on that trajectory a lot quicker, so if I do nothing and just rely on the Jim's lead system, it might take 18 months or a couple of years. But if you're telling me you're motivated, here's a list of things you could do, and they all get the same list. But if you follow that, this is the recipe to grow it a lot quicker. Because, we've done it 100 times now. We've got 100 franchisees. We know what works. We're always trying to improve, but we know what works.
And what you said is really great and relatable. So we've done this a couple of times, and it's a very similar thing, what you said about making that shift from an employee to now a business owner and going, oh no, I've actually got to go do stuff now.
Yes.
Do you think more people fail, the ones who can't make that shift, who go from the employee to the business mindset, and then all of a sudden they want everything handed to them? Yep. Whereas you were lucky, you quickly realised with yourself and identified, what can I do? I've got to start getting out there and hustling.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of other people might just sit in their hands who are watching these general business owners and start blaming other things.
Yeah.
How did you make that shift so quickly to take accountability for yourself?
My wife got pregnant.
Right.
So, well, there's a couple of things.
Yeah.
So, one, I was in business. We had a mortgage. We were a young married couple.
Yeah.
We were planning on having kids. I knew, which is another reason why I jumped into business. I thought, if I don't make this shift now, because I was on pretty good money in IT, but I wanted to get into business for myself. If I didn't make that shift when I was in a position to do it, I think the additional stress of having a family might have kept me in wages for the rest of my life.
Right.
And for me, that was the line in the sand. Just take a leap of faith now.
Yep.
And what's the worst case? I'll go back to an employer, which I know I didn't want to do in my heart. I guess I took that leap, and then I quickly realised it just doesn't happen on its own. A few leads started coming through, of course, from the gym system. But by going out and knocking on doors and meeting people and dropping flyers, some more leads come in. So I was thinking, I've just got to rinse and repeat this. And I guess down the track, so I become a franchisor and started, because I've always loved giving back and teaching other people what I know, because I was a manager in IT. And so then I thought, I've got to teach these new guys and girls, because we had a female franchisee come on in the early days, how to grow their businesses quickly and what's the secret sauce. And so then I started documenting everything. So this is, I'm part of franchising, I'm going to document everything. And then the opportunity come up to purchase the division. So I was speaking with Jim about, where do I go next? I'm starting to grow my region. And he said there's an opportunity at the division level for whatever reason. And spoke to my wife about it. And I thought it was a very exciting thing. I knew I could do things a lot better, especially in the space of technology. So I knew from my own research and my background that IT was taking off. This is around 2008 to 2009.
So how long between starting as a franchisee to this point right now?
15 years.
15 years.
14 years.
Yep.
14 years.
Okay.
So I'd been in it probably 3 years as a 2 or 3 years as a franchisor. I'd sold a few franchises as well.
Yeah.
But I just saw so much upside with Pool Care because of we weren't leveraging the technology. So I knew Google and the way people were changing their purchasing behaviours was changing. I knew I could get our division on the front curve of that. I knew a lot of people in that space as well. So I was able to, I guess, work with Jim and the outgoing divisional, brought the division, and then I was able to implement everything I wanted to implement. So we went back and we reviewed the entire way we train people, the documentation, relaunched the website, the way leads are generated, local area marketing strategies, uniforms, vans. We did the lot over a period of a couple of years.
So when you took over, when you became the divisional owner, how many franchisees were there?
I think there was around 28, 30 maybe.
And now you're up to over 100.
Yeah.
So all this training and stuff has obviously helped you grow.
Yeah, well, we went sideways for 12 months, because I implemented some changes that were making some people feel uncomfortable, but I knew there was a bigger picture in place. So we weren't promoting as pool equipment as heavily, where it was more considered Jim's pool cleaning rather than Jim's pool care or pool service. So I wanted the customer base to know that we're specialists in pool equipment, pumps, filters, chlorinators, pool heating, anything for your pool, think Jim's. Yeah. We're not just pool cleaners. So we repositioned ourselves, challenged a lot of franchisees. They had to start coming to more meetings. They had to learn more. A lot of them, franchisees, it's easy once you think you know everything to not go to team meetings, not go to supplier training. So we needed to work out why. So I flew around the country to every city, literally in the first 12 months, met with as many franchisees and franchisors as I could, got their feedback about why maybe they weren't attending, why they were a bit disenfranchised. And within a couple of years, where you might get a couple of franchisees to a meeting, we're having full houses every time, because we're making the training interesting. We were asking them what they want to learn at the next training. We're creating a forum where people could talk and share ideas without feeling threatened about bringing things up. So there was a real cultural shift too.
Yeah,
I wanted the franchisees to know that we were there to work with them and help them be the best they can be, and that we were going to grow this over the next 10 years. And I always had a goal of 100 franchisees. So when you have got 20 out of 30 franchisees, that seems so far away.
Yeah.
And then hitting 100 franchisees last year, I guess one thing about setting goals, I've always done it. Every year I set my own goals, both personal and family, personal, business and family. And I think everyone should be doing that at least once a year. And on reflection of only setting a goal of 100 franchisees as I hit the target. So I thought it would take me 10 years, took me 8 years or whatever, and in hindsight I didn't aim high enough. So now I'm here. So I've had a bit of a transition over the last 6 months or so, trying to work out my next steps, and I've been speaking to, I've got some mentors and business coaches I work with, and even Jim, I'm having a chat with him tomorrow, because I'm trying to get clear now for myself the next 5 to 10 years. What I want to do.
And what you said a lot of great gold in there. The one I really want to pull on is culture. Culture in organisations, we hear how it's so important, culture, to get culture right. So you took over at a time, I think, when it was 28 franchisees, and obviously what you've put in place has worked. But one thing you said, which I think was really important, is actually, rather than just doing a generic email or doing even like a Skype or whatever, you actually literally flew to your stakeholders, you sat down with them face to face, you gathered their feedback, and then you base your culture on that feedback. And as you said, you went sideways for around, was it 12 months? But then once you had that implemented, look what the growth you've had. So what advice do you have for people who really want to change culture in an organisation or business or even a little company? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, well, it's probably an issue for almost every organisation is culture and team culture, because it will change. Dynamics will change with growth, and even individuals within teams can change. So they can change their attitudes towards the business, and it can affect the culture. So I guess the main thing, whether you're at the top of the food chain or you're one of the franchisees out there in the field, is the communication channel. So you need to create an environment where people can give and share feedback openly, and that everyone is part of a team. So I definitely say you are part of the Jim's Pool Care team. We'll help you be the best you can be. But then the cultural shift down to the franchisees, but you are also responsible for your own business. But you're also affecting my brand as well. So there's lots of cultural things happening here. So I want you to be really passionate about your own business, provide really amazing service. I want you to have a clean van. I want you to have a clean uniform, show up on time, do all these things. Because if you don't do that, it's going to affect your business, but it's also going to come and affect these other 100 guys who are trying really hard to create this really great customer expectation. So I'm really proud of the Jim's Pool Care team we've got now. To the point that I've been telling people in different franchising forums for the last 2 years that I'd be happy for any franchise inquiry to get in any list of those 100 guys and call them and ask any questions. So I've been to various forums where franchise systems might just hand out a couple of franchise names, call these guys. I want any franchise inquiry to be able to call any franchisee, ask anything, warts and all, and you'll probably get good, bad and ugly, but the majority of franchisees will know that they've taken responsibility for their business. They're part of a great team that cares for them and wants them to achieve their goals. And if they're not, there's a good chance they'll take some responsibility for that. And if guys are struggling, we want to get involved early. So the franchisor needs to get involved early. I need to be involved if required, and we'll try and fix it. And to me, that's what good team culture is we're actually, while working as individuals, we're I guess working towards a greater cause, which is the team, or Jim's Pool Care team.
Yeah.
So.
That's really, really great information there. I've read in I want to go back to something you said before about your early days in business, because I think this is really relatable with people. Obviously, there's a startup culture now, and entrepreneurs and business owners and franchise owners in that first year. You seem like a very outgoing person. I've known you as a very big, outgoing personality, but I read in an interview online, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, but I read in an interview prior that you said one of your biggest challenges initially was getting out of your comfort zone, which I found surprising, obviously not seeing where you are today. So how did you overcome that initial challenge? Was it, obviously you've cited financial pressures and family and stuff, but how did you deal with those initial maybe fears about going out and prospecting and all that sort of stuff? How did you get over that? Yeah,
well, it's one of those things, you literally just have to do it. So getting into business is a big enough step on its own. So I tell people who struggle with it, you've got into business. Do you know how big a step it was to buy the business? Going and knocking on the door is actually harmless compared to what you've just done, but it is a mindset. So it's about practice. It can be about role play. It can be about using the assistance of a franchisor. So I encourage the franchisors, if we're going to make them do something awkward, you need to do it with them. You know, if you want them to knock on doors, go knock on a few doors with them. If you want them to go visit some real estate agents or introduce themselves to some pool builders, go with them, walk the walk. Because quite often, it's like anything new. Once you've done that initial step and walked through the wall of what fear is, you go, that wasn't that bad. And I find guys that do that actually grow to another level. And it's the same as I talk about what makes a successful franchisee. And I try and get people not to worry about the technical side of the business, because we teach you the technical side of looking after a pool and the equipment. What you need to get really good at is the customer service and the people skills. And I don't mean you need to be a flamboyant entrepreneur when you rock up to everyone's house, but just really basic business skills about engaging with the customer, letting them know you're the right person for the job, you've got the right skills to do the job, and if anything ever goes wrong, you're the guy to give a call to. And if you can develop those business skills and rapport building skills early, that's probably more important than any technical skill you'll ever have. And you'll grow a repeat business a lot quicker.
I think that's very important what you said. I want to pull on that thread a little bit more, because obviously there's a massive online move. Obviously everyone can do Facebook ads and whatever. But what you're saying is, obviously that's important to do, but the more traditional methods is actually getting out there in front of a customer or a prospect and getting there face to face and being more confident in that interaction, because people tend to probably hide a little bit online now. They require that, and then the experience between that and what they see is different. So you're promoting a lot more to actually get out there, get from behind whatever you're hiding, get in front of the person and just get used to it.
Well, it's funny you say that. So I've been thinking about that more and more over the last 6 to 12 months, because we spend the majority of our marketing budget in the online space. And for good reason, because that's where the majority of leads come from. But I've been trying to work out in my own mind, what is the future of marketing and generating leads and customer service? And I think it goes back to marketing fundamental basics is repeat referral business. So our role in Jim's Pool Care is to get the franchisee to the front door the first time. And if that franchisee does an amazing job every time and does the right thing by that customer, the next thing that comes out is repeat business and possibly a referral. Now that's more powerful than us spending thousands of dollars online and doing all that sort of marketing. Because if that franchisee repeats that for every lead he gets, for as long as he wants to grow his business, he's going to grow a business a lot faster than the guy that's just waiting for the next online lead, And everything I've been reading and been involved with lately, I just believe it's coming back to that individuals need to take more responsibility for how they're going to grow their business and build. There was a movement about the key person of influence, right? Do I want to deal with the best pool guy in the area, the best Jim's mowing guy, the best, what's another one, building inspection guy? Do I want to deal with the best or just the average guy? Now, how do I find the best guy? I'm either go online and look for it and I'll find what appears to be the best guy, or I'll ask a friend or an acquaintance or someone who may know the best guy. So if I come into business thinking, how do I become the best Jim's whatever business that is, or even in the world of privateers, if you're a privateer starting a business, how do I become that best guy? You need to become a key person of influence. You need to get really good at what you're doing and then let everyone know about it. And maybe leverage technology that way. So, using LinkedIn and all those sorts of things, your website, to say, this is why I'm the best guy and you should use me. Because, if I'm bringing someone in, I want to make sure I've got the right guy. And quite often I'll go to referral. I'll ask friends, hey, you know an electrician, a plumber, who's a good guy I can trust?
That completely takes out the online need as well. So if they do that, and that's a really great point, because everyone's obviously, there's so much digital marketing stuff online and digital marketers left, right, and centre saying this, but obviously, as you said, the word of mouth referral is still the best. Over any PPC result, over any organic result, it's still the best way to go. So anything you can do to increase that word of mouth referral. So what other strategies? Well, obviously great customer service is one. What other strategies would you recommend for people to increase their referral rate?
So we encourage our franchisees to reward referrals. So if you're getting a referral, a small gift, so a thank you, could be a discount off the next service, could be a bottle of wine, box of chocolates. It's talked about that happens, but very few people do it and follow it up. So it's a random act of kindness. So if you referred me a job and I gave you a bottle of wine, you might feel a bit quirky about, Brett, you didn't have to do that. But you'd take it and you think that was a real nice gesture of Brett to give me this bottle of wine. Now you're a dinner conversation this Friday and someone mentions a pool, is there a chance you're going to say, hold on, Brett gave me a bottle of wine last time. I now owe him another one. Hey, I know this guy named Brett. He's really good at pools. And that's that organic referral-based model of growing. Now, do I have to give out a gift every time? Sometimes it's just a thank you. Sometimes it's just, or even a plea. Hey, I'm a small business. I'm just starting out. I'd really appreciate, I'm going to leave you 3 cards. If you know 3 other people who have a pool, I'd really appreciate you helping me out. Now, a personal plea to me, if someone did that to me, probably for the next few days, a week, I'm going to be on the hunt to try and find someone to help this guy who just come to me and did a great job, and I trust him. I'll try and help him out with a couple of leads.
It's great advice there, because I don't think a lot of people do it. You're right, it sounds really good in theory, but how many people actually put that into place? Yeah. I've seen a couple who do it and it works really well, but it's a small cost. You know, that little small cost to get maybe that 10-year client, as you said, how much is that worth, right?
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff I'm talking about is zero to no cost, right? So everyone thinks it's the next $1,000 ad, the next $5,000 campaign. This is all zero to no cost. So great service, referrals, incentivizing customers to give you work. All this stuff is close to no cost, but very few people will execute it. So most franchisees will try things once or twice, too hard, give up. It's about that commitment to activity. More, you know, every month I've got to have an activity plan. What are my KPIs, for example? This month I'm going to ask every single customer. I've got 50 customers, I've got 100 customers. I'm going to ask everyone for a referral. I'm going to leave 3 business cards. I doubt many guys would go through the whole month and execute it. But just sticking to that costs you nothing to hand out 3 business cards. But what would be the outcome if I tried it for a month? 100 customers, asking them if they knew someone and giving them 3 business cards. And then you repeat it. So find things that work. And once it starts working, you've almost cracked a bit of code and you just start repeating things. Especially in that no or to low cost space, I can repeat it forever. And in the big world of spending money, test and measure is important, but the struggling part for most businesses is the measuring. So we know we spent $2,000 on Facebook, we think we got some conversions, what's that cost per lead? Whereas the face-to-face referral stuff, it's genuine. I know if I do 10 of these or 20 of these or 50 of these, I get 1 job. And it costs me nothing. So, but again, that's coming back to the individual franchisee. So again, when they come into the system with Jim's Pool Care, we give them a local area marketing guide. Marketing and is a big part of our training and them taking responsibility. And then it's up to them to execute. So we've got the checklist of everything they need to do, and then we rely on the franchisee to execute.
So I want to talk a bit more about the training and all that sort of stuff, because obviously online, you'd see a lot of online comments with gyms, because the brand is stretched now. We're into different areas, obviously originated from mowing, but now it's obviously into pool care and that. But maybe just want to address that all the franchisees are actually local. They're actually business owners, even though they're on a franchise banner. And the training you provide for your guys, maybe do you want to outline the online course and stuff like that you've put in place, which people might not know about?
Yeah. So as part of that business review many years ago, we realised that people learn by, especially guys, we learn by doing. We like hands-on. So it used to be very intensive classroom training, minimal on the road.
Right.
So we flipped that around. We extended the on the road, and we extended the overall training, but it became more practical. So it's a combination of workbook and on the road training, a logbook, signing off at the end of it, so that we know when we put their start date on the system that they're ready to take leads and they're competent. To complement that, we've been developing for the last 6 months an online learning platform that'll have the majority of our key content on there that every new franchisee and our existing franchisees will get access to, where they'll work through each module, sign off that they've completed it, and then the franchisor will know where they're at as far as their learning progress goes, but also myself at the divisional level. Then to grow out that online learning space, because I believe everyone learns from different mediums. Some guys like reading, some like watching videos, some like doing the hands-on. So we're really trying to get an interesting blended delivery model of learning, and that'll include moving forward hints and tips, videos from our suppliers. So a supplier might bring out a new product, we'll engage them to do some video content, we'll put it into our online learning platform, ask a few questions at the end, and that'll become part of ongoing professional development. And the beauty of that, it's been delivered once to 100 franchisees, and we can track and measure that and see how they're going with it.
I think what you said, applying ongoing professional development to what is a mobile service-based business is really a point of difference to a local independent bloke who you don't know what really, you're just going on what they say, which I think is a pretty unique type of thing.
Yeah, well, the motivation, I guess in any of the gym's divisions, the challenge is saying, could I go and do this myself, or do I attach myself to a large brand like gyms?
Yeah.
So what we need to do as gyms, a gyms group across all divisions, is provide value. How do we do that? We provide great training, support, marketing, but in speaking to a lot of division heads, the ongoing professional development has come up over the last few years as a big thing they're focusing on. So I think we're going to get better at that, constantly delivering ongoing professional development via online learning and face-to-face training.
That's a really good point. And I just want to reiterate that even though they are under the banner, they are local and actually to people's areas and actually independent. Even though they're a franchise, they're actually really, they are an independent business. They've got a family and all that sort of stuff, and they're responsible for themselves.
Yes.
Obviously, you're there to guide them,
yes.
but at the end of the day, the franchisee is a local independent business owner.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a really great bit of information there. It's really unique to your industry. I don't think many people would say professional development in association with a mobile service business, which is great that you're doing that. So basically, I want to touch back to, obviously, you've been around for a while. Does a particular franchise success story or franchisor success story really stick out to you in your mind? Maybe tell us a bit about it.
There's probably a couple. Let me think. So something in the last 12 months. So there's a new guy a new franchisor in Sydney. He was a school teacher, private school teacher, really looking for a change. And he come on board. He initially inquired about a franchise, but once I had a chat with him in an interview, realised that he was of a slightly higher calibre who could probably take on a regional level. Quite often we'll get franchisees that eventually step up to buy a region, or they'll come straight from outside. So if they're coming from outside, they've got to probably bring a little bit more of a skill set to be able to be a regional franchisor. Brad, with his teaching background, it's worked out to be perfect. So one thing about Brad, so this is Brad in Sydney Eastern Suburbs. So part of the process of coming on as a franchisor is you grant yourself a franchise and you walk the walk. So it's exactly what I did many years ago. I want every franchisor to do it. They don't have to build a massive business, but I want them to go through it so that they understand what it's like to grow a business. So he's grown a massive business within 12 months. And when I spoke to him a few months ago, I was talking to him about approaching end of financial year this year, because that'll be his 12 months, because he started around June, July last year. And I was curious about what his gross turnover was. So, a goal in your first year is probably around $150,000 would be a nice goal to work towards gross turnover in your first year. For some guys it might be less, others might be a bit more. So he's told me that he's turned over in excess of $200,000 in his first year.
His first year business.
First year. As well as being a franchisor and supporting a few franchisees, he's been going out there and building this business. And I asked him what would be the one takeaway you would say is help you do this. He said, I just followed the system. And I said, really? I said, I love it when people say that.
Yeah.
He said, no, it's just really simple. He said, I'm a school teacher. You gave me the books, you gave me the things, and I just followed the system, and it's worked.
Yeah.
And I said, Brad, if I know I could bottle or capture you saying that. So maybe Brad will be sitting here one day, because it'd be good to ask him, what his journey was about. But for me, it was only a short conversation, but that made me feel really good that Brad come on board, followed the system, and the outcome was a successful business in 12 months. Now that's not, for everyone. It might take a little bit longer or whatever, but that shows you that if you follow the bouncing ball sometimes, it's a good outcome.
Well, why do you think people don't follow the system then? If the plan's laid out and it's led to this success, and then someone else comes in and says, why do you think those people don't follow the system?
I think it happens a lot, to be honest, Joel. Probably feedback or my perception of why is it feels a bit hard, or many people feel they know better. I guess that we try and shortcut things in life, and I guess growing a business is another thing we try and shortcut. So if it's getting out and knocking on doors or whatever it might be, that feels a little bit harder than sort of maybe putting an ad in the paper, or paying someone to do something. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really good question, and I wish we knew a little bit more of the psychology around that.
Yeah.
Because most gyms divisions have great systems in place, but I regularly hear of people just not following the system.
Yeah.
So
It's an interesting one. It's a tough question because obviously you can't really put on some sort of single thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of data from internally if people don't know, but the ones who do, as you said, follow those systems and actually do those things and get out of their comfort zone. Maybe it's a comfort zone thing more, like going to, as you said, putting an ad in the local paper or doing PPC or Facebook ads or whatever is a lot easier than actually getting in front of business owners.
Yes.
So maybe that comfort zone sort of thing, but it's just an interesting one because, as you said, here you go, you've got this great example of Brad who's followed everything and done the system, and then there's the example to follow, and that people will come in and not take any advice or think they can do it better, but you've been doing it for that many times, and this has worked for someone. So it's a really hard thing to try and
I think business is so many 1%ers,
right?
And a lot of individuals, when they start up in business, will start to pull those 1%ers out. So the harder ones will start to disappear. So now, instead of doing a whole heap of 1%ers and growing my business, they're now step back and they're looking for the Hail Mary. What is this one thing that's going to grow my business?
Yeah.
And I try and explain to new franchisees, I can be honest with you and say there's no one thing that's going to give you amazing business. Lots of different things regularly over time will grow a great business. And the one key factor in all that is you providing great service, showing up on time, on uniform, making the customer happy, build rapport, be the key person of influence, and keep doing all those 1%ers in the marketing space. Your franchisor will be doing all the high level, local digital marketing, and then myself at the national level will be doing the website stuff. And all those 1%ers equal a great business over time.
I think that's really, really awesome advice because that's something, a common thread I've heard from previous people. They say exactly a very similar thread. It's the 1%, little decisions consistently as well, and that discipline leads to that greater success. Whereas you're right, people do step back and go, right, I've got this great idea, I'm just going to do this, and that's it, and sit in my hands.
Yeah.
But as you said, then it's obviously looking at yourself introspectively and saying, what can I do as a business owner to push this forward, not blaming people, and those little consistent 1% value-based decisions.
Yeah, and I think the danger is time.
Right.
So one thing you don't have a lot of when you're first starting is time. So people think they've got lots of time. I've got lots of time, I'll grow it next week. But what runs out when you're running out of time? Money. You run out of money. So once you start running out of money, your behaviour changes drastically. So you'll either step up, so to speak, and start doing everything you were supposed to do because it's a survival mechanism, or you'll shut down and want to get out and if it's too hard and whatever. So I say if you're getting into business for the first time, do everything you can, follow that roadmap to the T in those first few months. Really get out of your comfort zone, push yourself, challenge yourself, because then you can reflect after 2 or 3 months and go, wow, I tried everything and it worked really well, or I tried everything and these things worked, but at least I had a go. Versus in a couple of months' time, you reflect and you look back and go, I didn't really do everything and I'm not sure if that would have worked. There's that doubt, self-doubt, but it is a challenge, Joel, and I think every franchisee will go through it at some point in the first 3, 6 or 12 months. There will be some self-doubt, but I'd just encourage them to go back to the system or go back to their franchisor and say, this is where I'm at, or this is how I'm feeling. The franchisor's role is to then sit down with them, meet with them and put them back on track, and also challenge them. So our franchisor relationship, and same as my divisional relationship to the franchisors, is we are nobody's bosses in this system. We're all just working together for a common outcome. So if I can help a franchisor or help a franchisee, it's definitely not as their boss. It's what is your goal? How do we work together to achieve that goal? And the sooner I can help you with a problem, so if you've got another tip in franchising or any business, if you're having problems or you're struggling, is talk to people about it. The sooner a problem shares, a problem halved. Just ask my wife. I love halving problems, it's true. If you can just get the monkey on your back, if you can just have a chat to the franchisor about what you're going through or the challenges, there's a good chance they've come across it, or I'll be able to introduce you to someone else who's maybe been through that, or it could just be a kick up the bum, like Brett, suck it up, mate. Get stuck into it. So.
So much great stuff you said there. And I want to touch on something you said earlier, which was the hardest bit for people in business, or even if they do the franchise, is they've paid all this money. And as you said, that's the hard bit. You've gone and organised the loans, or you've taken some equity from there. You've done the hardest bit. So the rest of this stuff you're saying, for any business or for any franchise owner, you've already done it. So that's encouraging for people that maybe they change that mindset to say, I've already done the hardest bit, which was saying, I'm going to do a business, I'm going to make a change, I'm invested this money. Now I've just got to do not the easy bit, but the more fun bit, get out there and actually promote myself and all that sort of stuff, which I think was a really great mindset shift for people. Just anyone in business to take that away. You've made the decision, and the rest of it, it really should be less hard than what you've said as getting invested into business.
Yeah, I'd agree. So you mentioned the word fun. So if you can be doing it and out there having fun, that's a mindset thing. I'm going to, enjoy this challenge. I feel uncomfortable. I'm telling my wife or my mates I'm about to go do this thing. Yeah. You're putting a little bit of accountability out there. You go and do it. You come back and say, well, I did that. How'd you feel about it? And all that sort of stuff. But the other thing I was just thinking then, Joel, is about immersing yourself in the theory of business. So what do you need to be doing? You need to be reading, go and ask some people, what book should I be reading about sales if I'm not good at sales? What book should I be reading about motivation if I'm, not feeling motivated? YouTube, online, there's so many resources available to get motivated. And if you're not sure, just speak to someone around you, find a mentor. So someone in your local area, doesn't have to be another gyms person, could be another person in business. Join a local networking chapter, B&I's, there's a few other different sort of networking chapters. Quite often there's other gyms around that want to meet on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be a formal thing, could just be a coffee catch up once a month, bounce some ideas around. But immerse yourself in the theory of business, treat it as a bit of fun, and just want to be the best you can be. So that's, become that key person of influence in your area, in your business, learn the art of business inside out and get really good at it.
Some really great bits of practical advice then. So that keep constantly learning mindset, and everyone who we've interviewed, and if everyone goes online, I'm sure there's YouTubers everywhere for entrepreneurs saying it's the same thing. What you're saying is that learning mindset. So currently where you are today, what are you looking at? What are you learning at the moment? What are you doing to maybe, let's say, where do you want to be in the next 5 years to try and take your business forward?
Yeah, so I set a goal that I want to be at 150 franchisees in the next 5 years. Yep. I don't say that as a made-up number. I know that we've got capacity for that around the country. So, 13 franchisors. It's only a couple of franchises a year over the next few years, and we're at 150 franchisees. So that's my goal, and I want them to embrace that. So we're starting to talk about that now. The online learning space, I believe that we need to be leveraging technology to be able to make the franchisees better at what they do. Constantly reviewing marketing strategies, online digital space. So I immerse myself in those key players in that space and what they're up to. A lot of the key names out there, I won't go into them, but I try and follow thought leaders. I've used LinkedIn a bit to see what's going on. Amazing TEDx talks. There's so much information, so many thought leaders out there if you want to tap into it. And sometimes it's making time to do that. So you need to work out what part of the week is the best time for you to sit down for half hour and make that time for your own professional development. So
I love that mindset because you obviously the word professional development, not a lot of people would probably associate with lawyers or whatever. You're associating it with even though it's it's pool care, which is you're associating that with that learning mindset and those same standards, which I think it's great. And that could mean a cleaner or mine should be applying the same theory to what you're saying, that PD development, that expertise, thought leaders in their field to really position themselves. And I think that's a really great point. It's not something that I see a lot online in relation to the service-based industries. It's more, But I think it's really great. It's an awesome point of difference you're mentioning right now.
Yeah, well, it's about creating habits. So in any business, it wouldn't matter how small or how big your business is, you need good business habits and what's going to motivate you. And we all go through tough weeks. So I'll be honest, if I have a tough week, I'll just immediately go find a podcast or something like that, and I'll type in motivation. I'll type in something, and 10, 15 minutes, half hour later, I'm back on track again, and
but you're taking action. That's a great thing you're saying. I mean, it's all these things you're giving, which is great bit of advice to people. It's all actionable stuff, but rather than you don't dwell on it, you just take the action. Right, I've identified this. I've got to do something. Whether it be learning or a podcast or change my thought process or whatever. You're actually doing something about it, which I think is a really important thing for people to take away. is they'll sit in it, not talk to anyone or not do anything, or they're going to shoulda, coulda next week.
Exactly.
But you've just gone bang, 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 bang. And maybe back in your early days, because you had that pressure where you actually had to go and do it, you've drilled that habit, and it's probably, you followed it through right through to now, which is really, really great.
Yeah, well, I did end up with 3 children, mate. So, I've had to take a lot of action since then, and they were 3 girls. Yeah. So I'm saving up for a lot of weddings. So, mate.
That's a really great bit of content. So I want to go back to the start. We obviously asked you what Jim is like. You're known for having a bit of banter. Today we had the divisional meeting. For people who don't know, the divisional owner, so Brett owns the pool care division. They come down at a bit of a round table almost, like Knights of the Rain table almost. You've got Jim there, and you're very vocal in those meetings. Is there anything that sort of stands out in terms of banter by the way of Jim you've had over the years, or any sort of thing you can recall? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
So Jim, look, I've had many amazing conversations with Jim. I believe Jim enjoys being challenged. So one thing I like about him is his ability to make swift, fast decisions. And I think you look at all entrepreneurs, and that's probably a trait, is their ability to make very fast decisions based on the information given. But that can also be the downside of some entrepreneurs. So I think we've got a great team of divisional heads, and I like Jim to engage us a bit more and bounce ideas off us. But I also appreciate where Jim's coming from and what he's achieved. So I guess I'd probably like to give Jim a little poke every now and then, and let him know I'm around, and let him know that I'm part of the team and whatever. Thinking back about a funny story about Jim, so what'll be a good one?
For those listening, Brett's probably the most vocal at these divisional meetings, and he tends to have a lot of good banter with Jim.
Yeah, so look, Jim's renowned for being a bit tight, right? So
I know from my pay packet he definitely is.
Yeah, so he's very thrifty. So there's a lot of urban myth about Jim and the way he lives, but he literally lives next door, and he dresses in his Jim's uniform every day and just wanders across to work. He doesn't want for much as far as luxuries go in his life, which people can't believe, but he's like that. But it flows through to every part of his business life. So I remember speaking to him once about coming down for a divisional meeting, and I asked if I got here early enough, if it included a breakfast. And he said, I don't know, I think that normally costs about $12 or something. You'll have to speak to the kitchen about it. And I said, Jim, I've just spent $1,000 on airfares and hiring cars and driving all the way out here. And he said, I suppose if you just sneak in, you can have one there. It was just a buffet of bacon and eggs, but that's the sort of bloke he is. Not to say he's counting every penny, but he's very aware of the money coming in and out of his business. And he still hasn't shouted me at breakfast, by the way.
Well, if you listen to this, Jim,
but we did lobby him today to shout us a night's accommodation. So Jim's got for those that don't know, a pretty amazing conference centre here. I think it's about 100 rooms.
Yes, it is around 100 rooms.
100 rooms. So everyone flies in from all around Australia for their from all different divisions to have their 3 days Jim's business training. And I just hit him up to shout me a one night's accommodation next time I come down, because otherwise I've got to get up at 4 in the morning from Brisbane to fly down here to jump in a car to be here by 10 o'clock. So he wants to bring the meetings forward to 9. So I've squeezed him to shout me a night's accommodation. I'll fly down the night before.
You've done well. You've done well than most. Maybe he's loosening up a little bit.
Are those meetings recorded?
Maybe not.
Because I need that on the minutes.
We need it on the minutes.
I'm going to need that on the
minutes. It might be, I think Jim takes the minutes though now.
Yeah.
With them.
Oh, that's great.
So maybe he might leave that out there, but we'll see. But it's on here, so we got it in this one to show. I'll nearly leave it there, but the last thing I was going to say to you, obviously you're in the pool care industry. You've probably heard every joke under the sun. Yeah. Is there one that you sort of comment you get all the time when you've been out back in the day, or is there one good zingers you can give for anyone listening or watching?
So, the pool care industry cops a bit of flack about that. But just to let all those customers out there be reassured that the most I ever received when I was out there cleaning a pool was a cup of tea in a Leamington. and that was off a lady named Beryl. She was about 86. And that was as close as I've come. So,
just want to clarify that for
I'm sure there's some great urban myth out there, but nothing that I've heard, Joel, that's that exciting.
So if people want to find a bit more about yourself and about Jim's Pool Care and what you're about, where can they go to find you?
Yeah, so, you call the Jim's head office, 131546. You'll be put through to the local franchisor in that region. who'll be able to answer any questions, give you an information pack. Ideally, we like to catch up and have a coffee if you want to go to the next level.
Yep.
We love offering interested parties a free ride along in a van, come out and see the business firsthand.
Yep.
And the beauty of riding along with another franchisee out in the field is you can ask as many questions as you want and get a real life story about that person's journey. People are also welcome to try and get in touch with me if they wanted to, again via the 131546.
Yep.
We've also got our website, jimspoolcare.com.au. There's an online inquiry form for franchisees and master franchisors there. And yeah, we'd love to hear from people who are interested in that story, I guess.
And I know you've been doing more social as well, so obviously Facebook as well.
Yeah,
and even
Facebook.
customers, if you want to find a bit more about what they do, there's a lot of blogs and stuff, that tips and advice that Brett puts on his website. So if you're interested in that, head to there. Just Google Jim's Pool Care. They'll come up, and we'll try and leave some links as well with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for agreeing to do this, Brett. I knew it'd be really good, and I reckon you provided you provided so much content of advice for just not only franchise owners, but franchisors, divisionals, and obviously general business owners. And so, even if you're not a business owner, I'm sure there's something you can get out of
Well, it's been enjoyable, Joel.
Thanks for doing this,
Thank you
Brett.
very much,
Appreciate
mate.
it.
No worries. All the best.
So thanks everyone for watching that. We hope you found it very insightful. I know I did. I learned a lot from talking to Brett. I really enjoyed that one. I knew he'd be great to have on. If you're listening to this on the podcast as well, make sure you leave us a 5-star review in the iTunes store or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you're on YouTube, make sure you please subscribe or leave some comments about it. Head to just Google Jim's Pool Care. I'm sure all the stuff Brett will come up. You can contact him via Facebook, 131546, and also his website. But if you want more of this type of stuff, please let us know by engaging with us on the platform, send us a message, all that sort of stuff, and obviously the Jim's Group Facebook page. Thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again.